Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak here on Citizen TV, and so much still to cover. And I want us now to make transition to what is just about to happen at the Senate this morning. We know that that bill that came from the National Assembly is expected in that House for consideration. And Dr. Chris Omalo, let me begin with you on this, because you sit at the National Assembly and you saw what transpired there. And how do we avoid, because of this clamor for amendments, the contentious issues, the political posturing by the different sides, and we hear that there could be a possibility of amendments to be pushed still at the Senate. How do you avoid a situation whereby this bill is delayed because of ultimately the Senate may come up with amendments that may require a mediation process and further delay the enactment of the law?
Thank you very much, Sam. First and foremost, I want to say the principle of having two houses is also to check each other, so that some laws, particularly those that concern counties, the Constitution is very clear that they must go to the Senate. And any law can originate from the National Assembly. Now, particularly on this political parties amendment bill, I want to say that me, as the Secretary General of Ford Kenya, as a party, a decision was made that that bill should be supported. The Englishman says the shoe error knows where it pinches. Because we've been in coalitions since CORD, where we were with ODM, Wiper, Ford Kenya. When we came to NASA, we had ODM, Ford Kenya, Wiper, and ANC. So we have experience of the challenges under coalitions. And this bill was actually coming to cure part of the problems that were there. More importantly, on matters touching on political parties fund, the registrar of political parties, for instance, could not remit funds directly to the partners. They say they had to remit the funds through our big brother for onward submission. But with this law, the registrar of political parties can now send money directly to the parties under the coalition, because there's that recognition. And we saw it was a wonderful idea. As a matter of fact, it has also reduced the threshold for a party to be able to access political parties' funds. When you look at the Political Parties Act, any political party before you are registered, one, you must have offices at least in 24 counties out of 47. That requires money. Secondly, you must have registered membership of at least 1,000 in the minimum of those 24. So it's been very difficult, particularly when it comes to smaller parties. And that's why, as a party, you know, when you are the Secretary General, there's a very thin line between your own opinion and the opinion of the party. So this law, advantage of this law, it recognizes this coalition. And the future of this country, Sam, I can assure you, it is in coalitions. And it's important that we must anchor it in the law. We had also other issues that we had with that law. For instance, initially it was saying that coalitions should be made at least 6 months to elections. And when it comes to coalitions, there's a lot of negotiations. And the principle of negotiation is win-win. And it normally takes a lot of time. So some of us had even an amendment to bring it to 90 days. But the Leader of Majority's amendment of 120 days, it went through.
Right.
How I had wished that it was 90. But now I decided, okay, it's not that bad. Let's go with the 120, because looking at the time frame we have to the elections, we don't have that time. There are also very good amendments. Like Honorable Ichungo had a very good amendment of institutionalizing the register of political parties. But under Article 118 of the Constitution, it says before any law comes to the floor of the House, there must be public participation. But when you bring an amendment that is directly outside the objective of the intended law, it must have been subjected to public participation. But the Speaker ruled that such an amendment should be dropped.
Yes, and they were dropped.
And they were dropped.
And they were never considered.
Absolutely.
But now this bill is going to the Senate for a fresh look.
Absolutely.
And the question I asked you, Dr. Chris Omalo, so that we are quick, is because the Senate has its own right to make all the changes that they want.
Absolutely.
at the event that there are so many amendments or some amendments that come to the National Assembly that the National Assembly may feel that, no, this is not what we intended, it may push it to mediation.
Absolutely.
So what happens between now and that time so that also you save on time that you...
Now, I was coming to that. I was coming to that. In many jurisdictions where you have two chambers, as I said, these chambers are also to check each other. And there are many laws that have passed in the National Assembly and they've gone to the Senate, and I appreciate the Senate normally has added a lot of value. So you're supposed to check each other. And in the event that Senate brings the amendments contrary to what was passed, there is room for mediation. And when you go for mediation, and if you go through the mediation and you don't agree, there's no concurrence, the bill is lost.
Right.
That is our law. So it will depend with what is going to happen in the Senate. If the Senate are going to concur with what National Assembly passed, then I can assure you by next week, this law will be on its way to the State House
That'll be too
for
soon,
the presidential Senate. No, if it passes. I'm saying if it passes.
Let's hear from the Senator.
If it passes, next week it goes. But in case they'll have many amendments to improve on it or contrary, then obviously we can't avoid, we'll go for mediation. And if case we go for mediation, the chances of it going through to be operational before the general elections are going to be very minimal.
Senator, so the bill is coming to your house, and he's very ambitious that it's possible to have it passed by next week. I'm not sure about that because the legislative process would have to take certain steps that begin from, is it the publication, then first reading, then second reading, then committee? I mean, that may take time. That's what I'm asking. So, Senator, there had been some observations from your side of politics at the National Assembly. Is it are you of the same view at the Senate?
First, UD has a problem with the timing of the bill. We strongly believe legislative role of Parliament is sacred and very noble. At this time, priority should be given to coming up with laws to resettle the people who are being affected by the illegal demolitions of Mukuru in Nairobi slums, or the poor people who are being killed in Lamu, the people who are being displaced in Laikipia, the many people who have currently become unemployed because of the effects of COVID-19. If the leader of majority in the National Assembly and in Senate record Parliament to discuss those issues, that would be better and more noble, as opposed to using legislative time to prioritize matters politics, which clearly you can see the intention is to benefit one person. And we say so when you look at the objectives and the objectives of the bill, you can see they are talking about coalition. Currently, who is coming up with a super coalition? Clearly, it is one side of political divide. You can see, when you look at the objective concerning sharing of money of political parties, again, you can see the bottom line is to assist a certain person to get certain goals. And therefore, how I wish we are discussing about the poverty, the unemployment, the plummeting producer prices of various agricultural products that we, Kenya, produce, that would have been better use.
But now that it's coming to the House and there's a special sitting today, so what is your strategy because of what you feel it's not a priority?
Definitely, most likely personally, I will have a problem with the bill. But beside the intention, when I look at the substance of the bill, it contains very problematic clauses. In particular, proposed section 22 of the said bill is very problematic. Reason being, it enhances the powers of the registrar of political parties insofar as matters nominations are concerned. We are due to have nominations anytime from now, between now and April 26th of this year. And in so many places, like in Central, in Nyanza, and several places, getting a party ticket is like now getting is like winning the actual poll. And therefore, nominations are very passionate to various contestants and also the general public. When you now, for instance, propose that political parties list will no longer be matters of political parties. You have to deposit that document with the register of political parties. What if, for one reason, your name is deleted by the register of political parties without due recourse? What about the opposite? The register of political parties delays in upgrading that membership list. Remember, we usually register people to join the political parties. We take those names to the register of political parties. So the pressure often tends to be very high. And so it takes time for that list to be updated. So those delays, which will be caused by register of political parties, will negate democratic exercise of nominations.
So what will you do to avoid all this?
We'll do two things. Number one, we'll propose amendments to the bill to improve on it, definitely. Anything that is positive, I have no problem. It should be supported. But anything that is inimical to the interests of the common Kenyan will definitely should be deleted and opposed.
Okay, and Honorable Wanga, because of those chaotic scenes that we saw at the National Assembly, in hindsight, do you think it would have been handled differently, or the political realities of the moment dictate that that has to be the only way?
Thank you, Sam. And this is an important bill, and it's not for any individual. It's for the advancement of our democratic space as a country and the place of coalitions and coalition building, and also to strengthen our political parties. Kenya is a multi-party democracy. We can only strengthen our democracy by strengthening our political parties or coalition parties and providing a framework. And so for anyone to say that this is individualistic or this is not to the benefit of Kenyans, I think it's misplaced. For the scenes that we saw in the National Assembly, it's when the realization came on the Tangatanga Brigade that they didn't have the numbers, then they began to cause the chaos. So I want to urge the Tangatanga Brigade in the Senate that we hope, if when you realize you don't have the numbers, just let the legislative process proceed in terms of, let the vote be taken on every item, but don't create chaos. The chaos you saw in the National Assembly, Sam, were created by Tangatanga Brigade. When they realized they didn't have the numbers, they started to pick up fights, throw water bottles, do whatever it was that they were doing when they realized they didn't have the numbers. We've moved from that place long time ago. Let them just vote, advance arguments on various clauses. For example, clause 22 that Senator Kangata is talking about, that clause says that for you to participate in the nomination process of a political party, you need to be a member of that party. So what is wrong with Nairobi? Take Nairobi as an example. If me, Gladys Wanga, am a member of ODM, why should I participate in UDA nominations? I shouldn't. And so that is what that clause is saying, that if I want to participate in nominations, I should be a member of the party. And that membership, the Register of Political Parties is the regulator of the parties. Therefore, if I want to move from my political party right now, I don't go to my party. I go to the Registrar of Political Parties, write to the registrar and say, I am no longer a member of this party. So what the law is saying is every party should deposit their list of members, as is the situation with the Registrar of Political Parties. So this opposition to this bill is mostly just chest stamping, a trial of whether we have numbers or not, and because UDA does not have members. They have not recruited. They have not recruited members. Members are not politicians. So the fear is that because they have not recruited members, they do not want the Registrar of Political Parties to restrict participation in nominations only to members of the political party.
I don't know how true that is, because towards the end of last year, I hosted the Secretary General of UDA, Veronica Maina, and she spoke of the mobilization they were doing in the
so those, mobilization rallies are one thing.
I'm saying mobilization and registration of members. So she's not here to really tell us the numbers that are in UDA. But there's something you've said that I would want us to clarify, because you said that the chaos in Parliament were caused by UDA.
Exactly.
I don't know how true that is, because the person actually the action that was taken against anyone, it was against the minority leader, that is your party chairman.
After the UDA members came and were biting him in Parliament, you know, the guy just came and was biting his finger. Now you have to defend yourself. And they were beating everybody, including, I mean, they just ran rogue. So what the minority leader did, what minority leader did was in response to what the UDA brigade were doing. Actually, if you saw, there was a lot of restraint from members who were supporting the bill, because we didn't want the issue of stalling. The idea was to stall by all means, and that is why, even though they knew they didn't have the numbers, they took us on division on each and every clause, just for stalling purposes, and the chaos were also part of the stalling process.
Honorable Wanga, it would be fair that we are truthful here. I want us to listen to a clip of some members of Parliament on the 29th of December as they spoke, and then you'll tell me whether those are UDA members or they are members of Parliament from different political sides. Listen.
Okay.
They lost the 2013, they lost the 2017, they lost the BBI, they will lose 2022 because of this bravado.
And members, order members. I've done it before, but in the meantime, order members. Are we supposed to dance? Look how much go.
Mr. Speaker, I've been attacked in this house by the master of violence in this house, Mr. Speaker. Now I can't see, I can't vote. I have a right to vote in this house, Mr. Speaker. We cannot accept.
I direct that he goes to hospital. There will be directions to be given after he has received treatment.
It is not about money, it is about Azimio.
Just shut up when an intelligent man is talking.
I want to say that the party is Azimio la Umoja.
Waweru KJ representing Dagoretti South constituency, and I would like to thank all the members that there is no rush, that there is no rush and they shall stand to be counted, Madam Speaker, because just
Madam Chair.
Madam Speaker, I am last standing member in
Madam Speaker, what kind of dressing
Allow
is
me to vote. I am giving a strong no without being cowardized or heckled.
So Honorable Wanga, here comes the question, because you look at that clip, you see very different members, I mean, from different political sides, including Babu Owino, Rosa Buyu.
No, I was saying,
Jeanette
not people
Mohammed,
who are speaking.
Just hold on. Jeanette Mohammed taking away the mic from KJ, John Kerry. I mean, so stalling, was it by members of Parliament or by a particular side?
By a particular side. What Tangatanga were doing the whole time, and what I suspect they're going to do in the Senate, is to stall, to make sure there's no movement in the bill. And that is what they did in the National Assembly. It was stalling.
But the members of Parliament,
by all means,
including from your political persuasion, made long speeches.
No, we made long speeches after Tangatanga had already gone past the time. That was the only issue. You know, Sam, because you probably were not in the house, what the main point here is Tangatanga tried by all means to stall the passing of the bill. Okay. And I suspect that is the same strategy that they will use in the Senate, by bringing amendments, even mundane amendments, to every clause and calling for division on each and every of those amendments. When it's in the Senate, it's shorter. When it's in the National Assembly, when you call for division on every clause, it means the 300 members who are sitting in the House have to stand up and say, I vote yes, I vote no, on every clause. And therefore, you could easily be in Parliament for 10 days on the same law, something you do in 1 hour normally. So the stalling was the strategy. But I'm glad that Kenyans saw that the numbers that we have been so told about are non-existent.
Honorable Maki, you don't sit in Parliament, so you might be lucky to have an independent, objective view if your political position allows you. But then again, when you look at that, is this how we should be making laws, really? And what must happen now at the Senate? Because There are fewer yes. They'll vote by delegation because there are 47 delegations. What must we see?
Yeah. You know, I have a completely different view on this bill. I actually call it the Azimio bill. Because, you know, lack of planning on your side should not constitute an emergency on my side. We know this country, typically, people run for elections on coalitions. Why is this bill coming now, under 8 months to the election? Why didn't it start 3 or 4 years ago? So that by the time now is coming, all these electoral issues have been solved. So for me, I think it's very unfortunate that we are using coalition building as a priority in Kenya today. You know, you said I don't sit in parliament. If I was in parliament, this is what I'd be talking about. Yeah? The headlines in the Daily Nation: more Kenyans sink into poverty. While we have MPs who are representatives of the people going to talk about how can our political parties get money? How can our leaders get seats through coalitions? How can we make sure that the people who are big in this country even become bigger? While we have two things that are completely killing our Kenyans today. We have a global pandemic that has killed more people health-wise in this country than we have seen in a long time. Instead of legislating on how the national government, through the Ministry of Health, should have enough vaccinations for every single Kenyan so that our Kenyans are safe, you're going to look for more money for your political parties. I mean, more Kenyans are sinking into poverty. Kenya National Bureau of Standards. Highest cost of living is highest than it has ever been since independence. And what we are thinking about is, how do we form a coalition so that somebody can become a president, another person a deputy president, another person a speaker, another person a prime minister? And I mean, I think it's completely wrong.
Yes, that's what the bill is about.
Yes, when I look at this bill, because, you know, there's the spirit and the letter of the law. When I look at this bill and the way it's being pushed down our throats by one part of the political divide, it's just because they've realized that UDA as a political party has gone around the country and built one big inclusive political party. Inclusive political party. And the only way they can compete is by ensuring that they cobble together many small parties into coalitions to come up with the numbers. You know, Honorable Gladys Wanga, UDA is less than a year old. We've registered more than 3 million members. More than 3 million members. In Kitui alone, we've registered 110,000 members for UDA. More than any other political party in the county of Kitui. So UDA is a real threat, and our competitors are trying as much as possible using all sorts of unorthodox means, parliament, intimidation, to ensure that they stall the political progression of UDA. And that's what this bill is about. That's why this bill is about saying, these other guys, they have, first of all, no agenda, they have no party, they have no candidate. So they're saying now, since we have no party and we are late, why don't we shorten the time of building a coalition from 6 months to 120 days, because hatujajipanga.
I'm interested in something you said, that you've registered 110,000 members into UDA in Kitui County.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, did they belong to other political parties? Because I think it takes a process to transfer.
Some were new, and some were moved from political parties. And what happens is you sign a resignation and you sign an application at the same time. You attach your ID card. Has that been
affected by the registrar?
Yes, you put it into the party portal and it's sent to the registrar, and that's affected.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Has it been affected?
That I am not sure, but we have the data of all the people who resigned, because they had to sign a resignation form and then they had to sign an application form.
The reason I'm asking this question is because
their IDs and their consent.
If the bill is enacted as it is, then a certified register of members must be released to political parties after an application 21 days to the nominations, which should be, the nominations according to ABC should be on from 16th of April. So we're talking about the final week of March. So how easy will it be to get a certified register so that you can conduct party nominations based on members of a party based on a certified register?
Why we've been able to register that many members is because as people who are going around the country, campaigning for things like BBI, UDA was on the ground building a grassroots. I'm telling you,
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about the certified register.
Yes, then I'm telling you how we're able to do it. Yeah, we were on the ground building a political party and doing member registration drives, not rallies, member registration drives. So we used technology, and that's why we were so successful. From May last year is when we started, and the process is ongoing. And we used technology to be able to go in, electronically register people, and it goes straight into a portal that is run from the UDA Secretariat here in Nairobi.
I think that's a matter you have to take up with the Secretary General. No, this one actually.
Yeah, I'm here. Let me make some corrections from Honorable Mweke. I think it's wrong to say that this bill was Azimio bill, because I belong to One Kenya Alliance. And in One Kenya Alliance, we have Ford Kenya, we have Wiper, we have ANC, we have KANU. And some of us who have been in coalitions before. Honorable Mweke, under NASA, he was from Wiper. And his running governor was Kidero, who came from ODM. So his name, he had to move from Wiper to appear on an ODM ticket. Like in NASA, our presidential candidate was Raila Odinga, who came from ODM. Kalonzo Musyoka, who was a Wiper party leader, his name appeared under ODM. So this bill is doing such corrections. And this bill, some of us who have been in coalitions, we saw the value it was adding. Yes, it might have had some shortcomings in other clauses. But overall, we said, it's a house of debate. Let's pass the good clauses, and where there is amendments, let's do the amendments. And like it dictates, minority are hard, but majority have their way. So I just want to make that correction, that to me, really, it's not an issue of ODM about this party, no, about this bill. We were also there. And secondly, I want to make a correction. The registrar of political parties is the regulator, is the referee of these political parties. And they've launched something called e-Citizen. They give you a password, you fill in. But before you go for the nomination, you must get a certified list from the registrar of political parties, because when it comes to nomination, and we've seen it happening, a party can gang up to participate in another party's nominations and pass a weaker candidate who will be defeated eventually. So that's why I'm saying in this bill, some of us who look things objectively, there were good things about the democracy of this bill, but there were others that should be amended. And I'm calling upon Honorable Kangata. He's a good person. We were with him in Parliament. Look at the bill objectively, as opposed to our political inclinations, and see that, are we passing this law for posterity? Tomorrow, you'll never know what will happen today. You might be majority today, tomorrow will be minority. Who knew that KANU will be where it is today? So we want to pass a law that you can be happy about this law when it's in the hands of your enemy. So my humble request to the senators, please, you've always added value to this bill. Debate objectively.
Let's